we've seen this dramatic rise in the incidence or the number of children every year who develop autism. Now, undoubtedly, there's always been kids who are on that spectrum, but this rise is just much more than we would have ever expected. Over a 10 to 15 year period, 600% increase. What's so striking about that, though, is in the first 10 years of the 21st century, NIH spent over $1 billion to understand the etiology or the cause of that rise. 96% of those dollars were spent on genetics. We're never going to solve this problem by studying genetics because the genetic makeup of the population has not changed that much over the past 3 to 4 decades, right? So this dramatic rise has to be the result of environmental triggers or environmental triggers acting on our genetic makeup. But those genetic studies that are done in isolation from the environment will inevitably fail to provide the answers we want. But it's even worse than that. So let's take this a little further. We've learned, particularly during the thalidomide epidemic, be really, really careful what drugs you give to pregnant women, right? So we've spent all this money on genetics to understand the etiology of autism. Maybe 15% has been explained by that huge investment. But to me, the question is, why are we even going down that road? What are we going to do with the information? Are we going to use that genetic information to design new drugs? And what? Give drugs to pregnant women? Be really careful, right? Are we going to use that genetic information to design CRISPR babies? There's a lot of errors in gene editing. That's not where I'd want to go for my grandchildren. I would much rather find the contaminants like air pollution or pesticides, which have been linked to autism, and remove those from the environment. I mean, talk about arrogance. We're going to take thousands and thousands of years of evolution where we evolved with our environments, right? In a balance, but also with enough diversity to adapt to things. It's a beautiful thing. Oh, but we can do better than that, right? I don't trust that we can do better than that. And I think that's one of the most important questions we can ask. Technology has brought us some wonderful things, but it's also been quite tragic in so many other ways.
Right.
And we still have failed to appreciate that much of our problems today are because of our arrogance, thinking that we can do it better than evolution.
I think those are such good points, and thinking about the technology side of it and thinking about the complexity of trying to rely on genetics and genetic research and genetic editing, if you will, versus, again, what are those simple steps that we can take upstream, to use your phrase, to try to keep it from happening in the first place, and putting a lot more research dollars into that and proving that that can make a huge difference.
Right, and a lot more regulatory action to actually protect us. And I think we know enough. We absolutely need more research, and not just in prevention. There's always room to understand more about how to prevent suffering.
Right.
But where we really need to act, because we know enough, is to stop using chemicals that are either toxic or suspected of being toxic, or which have never been tested for their toxic effects.